Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, 1978. This made-for-TV oddity is a surreal intersection of superhero fantasy and 1970s rock and roll branding. The plot involves a disgruntled robotics scientist at a massive amusement park who creates animatronic doubles of the band Kiss to ruin their reputation and sabotage their upcoming concert. The real band members, portrayed as interstellar warriors with genuine superpowers derived from ancient talismans, must use their pyrokinetic and flight abilities to defeat the robotic clones and save the park from destruction. The film thrives on its immense camp value and the sheer novelty of seeing iconic rock stars acting as live-action Saturday morning cartoon heroes. Director Gordon Hessler prioritizes pyrotechnics, stunt-heavy fight choreography, and the park's roller coaster backdrop over a coherent narrative or traditional acting. It is a gloriously bizarre artifact of its era, capturing a moment when the Kiss Army was at its peak and the band's personas were marketed as larger-than-life myths capable of defending justice. While the acting is famously wooden and the dialogue is often absurd, the practical effects and the vibrant location shooting provide a unique nostalgic charm. It stands as a fascinating document of the 1970s multimedia push, where rock music, comic book tropes, and television spectacles merged into a singular, kitschy experience. For the cult cinema fan, it is a legendary curiosity that must be seen to be believed, a neon-lit time capsule of rock and roll excess. Terror on Tour in 1980, stage blood, mock executions, and horror-themed rock shows are the selling point for a shock band known as the Clowns. Their concerts are built around fake on-stage killings and dark imagery. Offstage, though, someone begins targeting young women after the shows, and the crimes look uncomfortably close to the band's act. Because the stage routine already looks violent, the group quickly lands under suspicion. Investigators circle the tour while the body count grows, and the line between performance and real danger keeps getting thinner. The mystery plays out like a backstage whodunit wrapped inside a grimy club tour. The movie mixes slasher structure with a pseudo-behind-the-scenes rock feel. Director Don Edmonds leans into the live performance energy, often shooting the band numbers like a raw concert film. Most of the budget shows up on stage. The concert effects use practical tricks to simulate violent acts in front of the crowd, echoing what happens in the real attacks. The offstage murder scenes are more direct and more grounded, using simple practical gore and close-up staging. The lighting and camera work favor a worn, late 70s club atmosphere over polish. It is a gritty exploitation piece, uneven but historically interesting, especially as a snapshot of early shock rock theatrics crossing into horror storytelling. Best approached as a niche cult curiosity rather than a polished slasher. Rock and Roll Nightmare, 1987. This is one of those movies where the ambition is huge, the budget is not, and the result becomes cult legend. What starts like a simple band recording in a remote house setup quickly turns into a supernatural battle story that goes completely off the rails. A hard rock group holes up at an isolated farmhouse to work on new songs. The location turns out to be tied to a violent demonic event, and creatures begin stalking the band at night. Just when it looks like a standard pick-them-off horror story, the film pivots hard. The lead singer reveals he planned the whole scenario and is actually a celestial warrior drawing evil forces into a final trap. John Mikl Thor anchors the film and supplies the music, performing with full rock god confidence the entire time. The movie was shaped around his image and sound, and that focus never wavers. Long performance scenes are woven directly into the story, sometimes stopping the plot completely so the songs can play out. Creature work ranges from hand puppets to suit performers to simple stop motion in the finale. None of it is polished, but it is memorable. The final showdown aims for epic mythology with very homemade tools, which is a big part of the charm. It's a true cult oddity. Part horror film, part rock showcase, part cosmic fantasy. The twist ending alone guarantees it sticks in your head, whether you buy into it or not. Shock 'em Dead, 1991. No talent, no stage presence, no chance, until a desperate musician makes a supernatural deal that changes everything. Overnight, a struggling pizza delivery driver becomes a guitar hero with instant skill, confidence, and a brand new image. The price is steep. To keep those powers, he has to feed on other people's life force, and the body count starts climbing. The movie plays like a heavy metal Faust story set in the club scene. Fame comes fast, but so do the side effects. Bandmates begin to notice something is off, and the pact behind the transformation starts closing in. The tension builds around how long he can stay on top before the bill comes due. Tracy Lords appears as the band manager in one of her first post-adult film roles. The lead rocker role is played by Stephen Quadros, who handles both the performance scenes and the horror angle with full commitment. Veteran actor Aldo Ray also appears, marking his final screen role. Effects lean simple but effective. Life-drained scenes use glowing eyes, rapid aging makeup, and performance stage attacks to tie the horror into the music setting. There are multiple full metal tracks performed on screen, and the concert footage is a major part of the film's identity. It is a straight-faced rock horror hybrid that never winks at the camera. Not polished, but focused. If you like late-era metal horror, where the supernatural and stage theatrics collide, this one delivers exactly that lane. Black Roses, 1988. The quiet town of Mill Basin isn't ready for what's about to hit its high school auditorium. A new heavy metal band called Black Roses rolls into town, promising thunderous riffs, wild shows, and the kind of energy that gets teenagers flocking to every performance. But behind the music lies something far more sinister. The band isn't just here to melt faces, they're here to claim souls. Black Roses is pure late 80s excess, fusing horror and heavy metal into a headbanging fever dream. The setup feels almost innocent, with skeptical parents and curious kids, but once the amps get cranked, reality starts to warp. Students fall under the spell of the music, their personalities changing, their darkest impulses surfacing. It's rock and roll possession at its loudest and most outrageous. The film doesn't hold back on visuals. Rubber-suited monsters erupting from speakers, surreal transformations mid-guitar solo, and gooey practical effects that embody the era's love for over-the-top spectacle. One minute you're watching a glam metal concert, the next you're in the middle of a demonic feeding frenzy. The concert sequences themselves are a blast, capturing the sweaty, neon-lit energy of the time before turning it into a nightmare. Beneath the leather, smoke, and pyrotechnics, Black Roses is a morality tale dressed in spikes. It taps into the anxieties of the Satanic Panic era, where music was feared as a corrupting influence, and pushes that fear into literal monster territory. The result is campy, outrageous, and deeply entertaining, especially for anyone who loves both horror and metal. Black Roses doesn't just play loud, it screams shreds and claws its way into cult classic territory. It's the kind of movie that proves sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's lurking in the dark. It's what's blasting from your stereo. If you're enjoying the video so far, take a second to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite in the comments. Now, let's keep going. Phantom of the Paradise, 1974. Brian De Palma's rock opera masterpiece is a flamboyant, satirical collision of the Phantom of the Opera, Faust, and the Picture of Dorian Gray. The narrative follows Winslow Leach, a gifted but naive composer whose life's work is stolen by the sinister, ageless record tycoon Swan. After a freak accident in a record press leaves him disfigured, Winslow haunts Swan's new rock palace, the Paradise, donning a silver hawk mask and a leather suit to exact a melodic, Gothic vengeance. The production is defined by Paul Williams's eclectic, era-spanning score and De Palma's signature visual flourishes, including his iconic use of split-screen and Dutch angles. Set within the neon-drenched, velvet-lined confines of the 1970s music scene, the film acts as a biting critique of an industry that commodifies genius while discarding the artist. It swaps traditional jump scares for a high-glam theatrical aesthetic where the monster is a tragic figure trapped in a contract he cannot break, literally signed in blood. For the modern viewer, this remains an essential cult classic for its sheer visual energy and cynical wit. It serves as a loud, colorful bridge between classic Gothic tragedy and the decadent excess of 70s pop culture. While it was a box office failure upon release, its influence on the rock horror subgenre is immeasurable, proving that the most terrifying villains aren't ghosts or ghouls, but the men in suits who own your soul. Rocktober Blood, 1984. This mid-80s slasher dives headfirst into the heavy metal horror subgenre, following a rock star who seemingly returns from the grave to stalk his former backup singer during a high-stakes concert tour. The film is a frantic, neon-soaked blend of traditional slasher tropes and hair metal performances, utilizing the high-energy environment of recording studios and concert stages to heighten the theatricality of the kills. It perfectly captures the gritty video store aesthetic of the decade, where the line between a music video and a horror movie was often blurred. Director Beverly Sebastian leans into the satanic panic zeitgeist of the era, playing on the cultural fear that rock music could be a vessel for literal evil. The killer's mask, a haunting, eyeless visage, combined with a pulsing synth rock soundtrack, creates a persistent high-voltage intensity. The film avoids the slow-burn approach of the 70s, opting instead for a rapid-fire succession of rhythmic sequences that mirror the tempo of the soundtrack, making the act of performance feel as dangerous as the stalking itself. For the modern audience, Rocktober Blood is a quintessential find for collectors of 1980s genre deep cuts. It is prized for its earnest commitment to its rock and roll nightmare premise and its unapologetically stylized atmosphere. While it lacks the budget of mainstream slashers, its raw energy and focus on the lifestyle of a touring band provide a unique perspective. It remains a loud, bloody, and thoroughly entertaining reminder of the days when heavy metal was the ultimate soundtrack for cinematic carnage. Trick or Treat, 1986. High school outcast Eddie Weinbauer lives for heavy metal. Bullied at school and misunderstood at home, his only solace is the music of his idol, rock star Sammy Kerr. But when Sammy dies in a mysterious accident, Eddie's grief turns to obsession, especially after he discovers a rare demo record that lets him communicate with his fallen hero. What begins as a fan's dream soon twists into a nightmare as Sammy returns from beyond the grave with a thirst for vengeance. Directed by Charles Martin Smith, Trick or Treat fuses horror with heavy metal culture at the height of the 80s satanic panic. Mark Price stars as Eddie, channeling both teenage angst and awe, while Tony Fields brings electric menace to the role of Sammy Kerr. The supporting cast features familiar faces like Glenn Morgan and Doug Savant, while Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons pop up in memorable cameos that cement the film's rock credentials. The movie is filled with flashy effects and concert-style spectacle, turning Sammy into a supernatural slasher whose stage presence doubles as his weapon. Electricity crackles, records spin backward, and the line between fandom and possession blurs as Eddie realizes he's unleashed something he can't control. On VHS, Trick or Treat became a favorite for both horror and metal fans. Its soundtrack and imagery feeding into the decade's obsession with music's supposed dark influence. Today it stands as a cult classic, part supernatural shocker, part rock and roll time capsule, and pure 80s excess from start to finish. Blood Tracks, 1985. A rock band and their entourage head into the snowy wilderness to film a flashy new music video, expecting nothing more dangerous than the cold. But when they set up camp in an abandoned factory, they cross paths with a deranged inbred family hiding in the mountains. What begins as a music shoot quickly spirals into a fight for survival, as the family hunts the outsiders in a frenzy of blood and violence. Directed by Mats Helge Olsen, Blood Tracks is a Swedish-American production that captures the wild excess of 80s horror and glam rock culture. The band Easy Action plays themselves, delivering both the soundtrack and on-screen performances, while the cast of models and actors round out the doomed entourage. The snowy landscapes and abandoned industrial setting give the film a stark, isolated feel, making the violence stand out against the white backdrops. When the carnage begins, it's brutal and relentless, Axes, traps, and blunt force, leaving trails of blood in the snow. What makes Blood Tracks memorable is its mix of music and mayhem. It takes the glam rock energy of the mid-80s and throws it headlong into slasher territory, resulting in a bizarre hybrid of concert film and survival horror. Long forgotten outside of VHS collectors' circles, Blood Tracks has developed cult status thanks to its outlandish premise, glam metal soundtrack, and over-the-top brutality. It's a perfect example of how the 80s horror scene wasn't afraid to mash genres together and go for broke. Hard Rock Zombies, 1985. A struggling rock band heads to a quiet town for a show, not realizing the place is hiding a bizarre secret tied to a reclusive family with roots in World War II extremism. Things turn deadly fast. After the band is killed, their music literally brings them back from the grave. Now undead, they return for revenge and still plan to finish the concert they came to play. Director Krishna Shah pushes the story far past normal horror comedy limits. The cast plays it completely straight, which somehow makes the insanity land even harder. The villains are exaggerated and cartoonish, including an infamous historical dictator figure and companion portrayed as over-the-top caricatures. The movie knows it is outrageous and never tries to ground itself in realism. The effects are low budget and very obvious, with simple zombie makeup and bright stage blood. There are several full music numbers built around original rock tracks, giving the film the feel of a strange horror musical at times. The tone jumps between goofy, dark, and just plain odd, often within the same scene. This is late-night cult movie territory. It is messy, ridiculous, and unforgettable once seen. Not scary in a traditional sense, not exactly polished comedy either, but consistently entertaining for viewers who enjoy off-the-rails horror experiments. If you love discovering forgotten horror and cult cinema, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the films time forgot. Thanks for watching, and remember, always be kind and rewind, because every movie is someone's favorite.